We are back with another discussion video on the subject local and regional governance. We have now finished lesson 1, and so we will proceed with lesson 2, which is about the Republic Act 7160 or the Local Government Code of 1991. So sit back, relax as we go along the lesson. Before we proceed, let us first check your understanding. Based from the previous topics, what is your understanding of the word decentralization? We now proceed with topic 1 of lesson 2, which is about the political and local government structure of the Philippines. Let us first ponder on this quote from James Madison. If men were angels, no government would be necessary. Here is our discussion outline. We will begin with the Philippine local government units, and then we will proceed with the types of LGUs. What follows are the branches or compositions of LGUs, Sanggunian composition, provincial elective officials, cities and municipalities elective officials, barangay elective officials, LGU creation criteria, compensation of elective officials, compensation of barangay officials, powers of local chief executives, powers of Sanggunians, and the approval of ordinances. We begin with the Philippine local government units. The country is divided into 18 regions, and it is further subdivided into provinces, highly urbanized cities, municipalities, and barangays. Each LGU is sovereign and autonomous. Local office holders are limited to 3-year terms and in not more than 3 consecutive terms. And each LGU has the right to generate its own revenue to be used exclusively. Here are the types of LGUs. So we begin with autonomous regions. So we have 2 autonomous regions in the country, namely the ARMM, or now the BARM, and the Cordillera Administrative Region. Next, we have the provinces, which is composed of clusters of municipalities or municipalities and component cities. Next are the cities. So cities are component, independent and dependent, and highly urbanized. Next is municipalities. So it is composed of barangays. And lastly, we have the barangays. So barangays are the basic political unit in our society. We now proceed with the branches and compositions of LGUs. We begin with the executive branch, which is headed by local chief executives such as governor, mayor, and barangay captain. These individuals exercise executive powers. On the other side, we have the legislative branch. These are mainly composed of the Sanggunians, and that it is the law-making and consultative body. Here is the composition of the Sanggunian. So the presiding officer are vice governors for provinces, vice mayors for cities and municipalities, and punong barangay in case of barangays. And they have to vote in order to break a tie. So in the absence of the presiding officer, members present may elect among themselves as temporary presiding officer to continue with the session. So there are also other positions such as the secretary, sergeant at arms, and committee chairman on health and sanitation, education, taxation, tourism, agriculture, and others. These are the elective officials of the province. We have governor, vice governor, sangguniang panlalawigan, presiding officer, regular members determined by class of unit, President of the Liga ng mga Barangay, President of the Federation of Sanggunian Members, and 3 sectoral representatives from women, agricultural or industrial workers, and 1 from other sectors such as urban poor, indigent cultural communities, or disabled. We now turn to the cities and municipalities elective officials. We have the mayor, vice mayor, sangguniang panglungsod and pangbayan, presiding officer, regular members of the Sanggunian, president of the Liga ng mga Barangay, president of the Sangguniang Kabataan Federation, IP representative, and 3 sectoral representatives from women, agricultural or industrial workers, and 1 from other sectors such as urban poor, indigenous cultural communities, or disabled. And then we have the barangay elective officials. We have the punong barangay, 7 sanggunian members, sangguniang kabataan chairman, the barangay secretary, barangay treasurer, and IP representative. This is the LGU creation criteria. So the local government units are determined by the level of income, population, and land area. This is the compensation table of elected officials. From the governor to the SB member, we have the corresponding salary grade with its corresponding gross monthly salary. We now proceed with the compensation of barangay officials. So honoraria, allowances, and other emoluments authorized by law or barangay, municipal, or city ordinance is the basis. Not less than 1,000 pesos per month for barangay captains. Not less than 600 pesos per month for sanggunian members, secretary, and treasurer. So a Christmas bonus of not less than 1,000 pesos. Free medical and hospital care but not to exceed 5,000 pesos in case of extreme urgency. And then free tuition and matriculation fees for legitimate dependents in state colleges and universities. And lastly, insurance coverage, which includes tanods and brigade members not exceeding 20 per barangay. These are the powers of local chief executives. They execute all applicable laws and ordinances within the territorial jurisdiction. They are the appointing authority. They supervise authority over executive officials. They issue executive orders. They have police power. They issue permits. And in the case of mayors, they can solemnize marriage. We turn to the powers of the Sanggunians. They approve ordinances and pass resolutions necessary for efficient local government. They generate and maximize use of resources and revenues. They appropriate funds for specific programs, projects, services, and activities. And they enact ordinances, levying taxes, fees, and charges, grant tax exemptions, exemptives, and reliefs. We are now in the approval of ordinances. Local chief executives may veto in writing any ordinance that is harmful to the public welfare. Veto action must be made by LCEs within the following period: 15 days for province and 10 days for cities and municipalities. Otherwise, it is deemed approved. The Sanggunian may override veto with 2/3 of vote from all members. The LCEs, except Punong Barangay, has the power to veto any particular item or items of appropriation ordinance, local development plan, and public investment program ordinance. And an ordinance is transmitted by the Sanggunian Secretary to the Sangguniang Panlalawigan within 3 days for review in order to determine its consistency and validity. And so, we're done with topic 1 of lesson 2. We now turn to activity number 4, which is picture prompt analysis. So you are to analyze what is being depicted in the picture by completing the following sentences. Looks like. How would you see the issue? Sounds like. Why is it happening? And lastly, feels like. How can you help the issue? So be as creative as you can and be practical. Good luck. Should you have any questions or queries, you can contact me through the following outlets. See you in our future discussion video as we go along our module. Thank you, and I hope that you have learned a lot.